Hey guys, welcome to West Coast Mopars. I got another project here, waiting in line. This is similar to the Valiant and that Falcon. Just gonna try and get this one running, driving, make it a good driver, and pass it on to the next guy. This is a 70. It's actually a 79 W200, but the front grille, front fenders, and the hood have been changed. It's got that bird bath hood. The grille is like 74, 75-ish. The fenders actually say club cab on them. So it's not, something's been, I don't know what happened. Maybe it got in an accident. But I got this truck. A guy I know, he's a drywaller. I guess he had to move, and he said, hey, like, do you want my truck? And his price was a little steep for me, so I offered him a bit less, and we sort of haggled, and it ended up here. So it is a full-time 4x4. You'd see, the transfer case is you're either 4 high or 4 low as you're driving down the road. There's no two-wheel drive. I think that was pretty common in these 70s Dodges. My cousin's got one. It's the same. This truck has a 360 and a 4-speed. So it's a new process 435 4-speed. You got your granny low or bowl low, whatever you want to call it. First gear's for basically pulling stuff around. He said it's an ex-Fisheries truck, so I don't know if it ever had a box on it or if it was always a flat deck. I'll just leave the flat deck and probably redo it with some old used 2x6s or something. It's got a Dana 60 in the rear, and it's actually got a Dana 60 in the front. He apparently had the drive shaft rebuilt, which is a common issue with these things. They just wear out and nobody drives them around. But it's got, full-time locking hubs. You can't lock them or unlock them. This fender, I don't know how well you can see this. This was my fault. I was trying to pull this truck around with the tractor. This thing was mint, aside from being covered in algae, but it was mint. And I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but it just got smucked in here. The trim. Luckily I didn't break the marker light, but it just got bent in. It actually ran into a tree over here, and I just mangled it. And I hadn't even paid the guy yet, and I've already wrecked the fender. And I just thought, oh my god, this is going poorly. So I'll have to try and hammer that out. But it's got some dings and dents, and it's got some rust happening. You can see that matting hanging down. The floor's got some holes. He apparently had regasketed the engine about 10 years ago. And it's a 360, like I said, 2-barrel. You can see where the gaskets are here. He said he regasketed it, but it's just been sitting neglected. The carb was wide open. I just shoved a rag in there while I've been blowing pine needles around. Apparently some junkies came and took the radiator, so that's something I'll have to put in. I do have some old rads laying around that might work. I think it's got front discs. And it needs a good wash. This side's got this fender. The fenders are pretty decent when they didn't get dented in by me. Other than down here, it's got some rot happening. Bottom of the doors. And it used to be green. You can see remnants of the green underneath the white paint. Seat's pretty rough. Dash is, I don't know, it's alright. I think it says custom over there. I can't get the passenger door open yet. That's been fighting me. The floor's been sort of hacked open a little bit. It's got this old hydro lock for the brakes. But anyways, yeah, it'd be alright to, just get it driving and pass it on to the next person. I don't need to keep this one. I've got enough as it is. Yeah, first step, I'm just gonna vacuum it out. I'll probably give it just a pressure wash here and clean it up, and then I'll and then I'll dive in. I'm gonna see if I can get this on the hoist in the shop. I measured it. It's basically like 6 inches shorter than my shop where the hoist is, so it should just barely fit. And then for width, I think I got 11 feet between the posts, or sorry, 8. And then for width, I mean, I measured it, I think it's like maybe 3 inches short of the posts on the hoist. So it should just barely squeeze in. And then I can address brake lines and hopefully free up the clutch if it's stuck, that kind of thing. I also got to try and bend this bumper back in. I was thinking I'll just take my tractor here and put the front wheel up against the bumper and shove a big rock behind the wheel and then just try and squish it back straight. It might work, we'll see. But yeah, this is the next project on the list, and hopefully it goes smoothly. Okay, shoved a rock behind the wheel. I'm going to turn the tractor around and just see if pushing on that bumper will push it in at all. See if this works. Alright, well, it's not the prettiest thing. It did work, but it actually, I guess it stayed folded up on the top and the bottom, so I may come out later and try and get a little crazy with maybe a big hammer. And I mean, you know, the bumper was already pulled out when I got the truck. It was, you know, unless I took it off and I spent some good time trying to straighten it, I don't know. It's better than it was. At least it's not sticking way out, catching your shins. It's actually maybe went a little, maybe not too far, but it's just got this big fold here. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably forget about it and go, nah, it looks good enough. Or maybe I'll spend some time with the hammer and trying to heat it up. I don't know how ambitious I'm going to get, but yeah, good enough for me. Yeah, I'm just going to clean up the floor a bit. Yeah, these floors are, it's got a huge hole right by the gas pedal here. My foot's wanting to go through. It'd be nice if I can get that door open over there. Clean out all this junk in here. I don't think there's anything in the... Oh, there's an old comb. What else we got in here? Ugh, gross. there's the dome light. There's a old gum package in there, so I guess that can go back up there. Other goodies we get. Who knows? Some old pipe fittings. Looks like there's some nuts. There's a lot of catch-up packs down in there. Somebody was going to A&W every day or something, keeping their old catch-up. I bet that catch-up's still good. Maybe. Oh, this one's a little dried up, but yeah, I don't know what was in here. Anyways, nasty old brush. I don't want anything to do with that. What else we got in here? Ashtray full of gross stuff. I got keys. That's pretty exciting. But like that light switch is seized. Nothing moves. The clutch pedal's way down. I love how far that is. I mean, it does move. Maybe it just needs to be adjusted. But man, that sure seems way down there. There's the lever for the 4x. What else we got? A boat tank. Bunch of junk on the floor over here. There's an old safety vest down there. Just a bunch of garbage, but I'll see if I can get this door open and we can take a look at that side. Okay, I just took the shop vac to the engine bay here. Vacuumed everything out. A little better. It was just full of moss and sticks and spiders and pine needles. Lots of sticks. Little branches, you know. So yeah, that's... Now we get a better idea of just how crappy this thing is. And I just took the air chuck and sort of blew out the frame and leaf springs, all that stuff, just where all that stuff was sort of accumulating. All the, again, just a lot of dirt, pine needles. Yeah, I think I'll keep my eyes out for probably some used lumber. I think it's a 10-foot bed, so just some used 2x6s. Don't want it looking too shiny, you know. Got to have it match the rest of the truck. So yeah, and I got some. Luckily, it's been changed. The wheels are 16s, not 16.5s, which I think this would have had. So I do have a good assortment of 16-inch tires. When I get to that point, these ones are, well, this one looks like it might live, but the one back there keeps going flat, and the rest of them are pretty weather checked. They're just old. Yeah, a little bit of progress today. Okay, I started pressure washing the old Dodge here. It's actually looking, I mean, in person it doesn't look as good as on the camera, I think, but this is, you know, I haven't done this side yet. It's still covered in years of grime and mold and moss. So lots of this sort of algae stuff growing on here. And, you know, that's why they call these bird bath hoods, because they turn into a bird bath. Water just sits there, and then as you can see underneath, the paint's just peeling up. But yeah, I did this side yesterday. Started on it. Looks a little better. Down below doesn't look so good, but below the trim. But yeah. It used to be green. That's what the paperwork says, and you can see it coming through some spots, the old green paint. But up here on the drip rail, you can kind of see the green there that it used to be. I don't know if inside you can see it. Probably. Oh yeah. Well, if I just open the door, there you go. There's that green paint. Yeah, just gonna finish pressure washing. And the grill turned out half decent. It's a couple dents, but doesn't look too horrible. What are you up to? Eh? Okay, well the camera was doing weird stuff yesterday when I was pressure washing, but yeah, here it is. Sort of, I scrubbed it with those SOS pads like I did on the Falcon, and it cleaned up most of the grime. The bottom, I don't know what's going on with the bottoms here. It looks like maybe the white paint's just coming off, and it kind of shows more of the rust. Bottoms of the doors, dog leg on the fender. Sort of the same story, bottoms of everything, but I think it cleaned up not too bad. You know, I don't know if the camera's picking it up. It's not the best paint job. It looks like somebody just did a sort of sprayed it over the green. Yeah, the rockers are, at least they're there. The floors are done. I'll have to put some kind of pan in. Obviously it's not a club cab, but front window's cracked. The grill turned out not too horrible. A couple dings here and there, and then yeah, unfortunately this was me moving the truck with the tractor. The truck it's on a bit of a hill over there, and the truck sped away basically and hit one of my trees over there, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to try and see if I can knock that out. This fender was pretty nice, and now it's all smushed in. At least I didn't break the marker light, but that's kind of annoying. The worst part was I hadn't even paid for the truck yet. I was waiting on the guy to get the paperwork. That was the deal. If you get the papers, then I will, you know, happily pay for the truck. But I didn't really want it if I had to then do a long-winded title search and stuff. So he got the papers, but before he brought them to me, I hadn't, you know, I was moving this thing out of the way, and this happened. Well, I'll see if we can fix it. This door doesn't open for whatever reason. It's just seized inside there. Check out these hubcaps too. These are so deep. These things, I don't know if these are factory. I think I'm missing one for the other side, but these are crazy. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull it in the shop. So you guys saw how I get the cars in the other side when it's on the hoist. I use the tractor. But if I'm pulling stuff in here, you can laugh if you want, but basically I've got a piece of rebar that I drilled. This is my outside wall, so this goes outside, and I drilled through, and on the outside I've got a huge steel plate, and I welded a nut to the end of the rebar on the other side. It comes through here, and then this washer just keeps it from going back that way. And then I just stick welded this shackle here, and it's got, you know, a bunch of hooks and stuff, and just run a chain to this little electric winch. And this winch I bought at Canadian Tire years and years ago. I think it's a 4,000 pound, or maybe it's 5, I can't remember. I think it's all covered up. You can't see it. Yeah, the sticker's all covered up here with the tape, and that's an old leaf spring, so spring steel. I just welded to the bottom of the winch, and then I just have a hook with the chain, and then that runs over to a car battery. And yeah, so I just, with that angle iron going through the wall, and you have a plate on the other side, that just distributes the basically the pull across the wall, so you're not just pulling on one point. And hook it to this chain and pull the truck inside. So I'm gonna take those mirrors off. Okay, so I just did a huge order on Rock Auto for some parts for this thing, including, you know, a headlight switch, basically the entire ignition setup. That 5-pin box it's all rusty and melted on the back. I don't think it's gonna work. Even new those things, I mean, they're terrible. I used to push for those all the time. Do the 4-pin ignition conversion, and they just never work. They're junk. So I'm gonna leave the stock ignition in this truck. I'm not gonna do anything else, but I'm still wondering if it's even gonna work. This thing's just a mess of wiring, you know. Somebody's been in there crimping and cutting and adding, and it's just awful. So that'll be fun. I've got to figure out a radiator. This was stolen, apparently. Some junkies came and took the radiator, and that's what he says. So I've got a bunch of old radiators in the back. Hopefully I've got one that will work, that doesn't leak. I've got to figure out the numbers on the carburetor. It's a 2-barrel Holley, but when I looked online, there's a bunch of different kits for it. And I've got to figure out tires. I think I've actually got tires. These are 245 75 16s. This one just constantly goes flat, and they're just thrashed. They're old and tired, and so I think I've got a set in the back somebody gave me that would be perfect for this truck. I finally got this door open. This was kind of a pain. The latch was just totally seized. I had to take the door panel off. See, it's sitting there on the seat. So I got that open, and I'm gonna lube it up. I gotta vacuum the floors. Yeah, it's not bad. You know, it seems like it's got everything, or mostly, you know, other than a few things. It's missing an air cleaner too. I think I got a couple 2-barrel air cleaners. I can probably throw one on. And I popped this dent out, kind of. I just used a 2x4 from the inside and sort of just tapped it out. It's not the prettiest thing, but at least it's not all banged in anymore. It looks like you can actually buy fenders for these trucks. I don't really want to get into that. I'm not doing body or paint. I'm just trying to bring this thing back to life. Yeah, the starter that came out was this guy, and as you can see, it's pretty crusty. I don't know how well you can see under the cover here, but it's pop this out. It's not looking too good. This is the one that was in it, and it was just full of corrosion, and looks like mice had made a house in there, and it was pretty gross. Nothing wants to move, and when you'd crank the key, it would just be so slow to spin. So I'm not going to use that guy, but I might open it up later and see what the brushes look like if they survived. So this guy, I'm going to use this one. This one spins freely. Off the cover. Much cleaner inside. But I bench tested it and I couldn't get much, so I'm just going to open it up and see what it looks like inside. I already took the 2 bolts out, so and then inside, oh, it's way better. The brushes actually have lots of life, except for the one. There's one on the side, I don't know if you can see in there, way down on the bottom, that's worn on a huge angle. And it doesn't look very good, actually. So it's pretty low. So I might just take that one out and replace it with maybe one from the other starter. And then I'll just take some time and clean up around the outside here. And hopefully we can free this guy up, because yeah, these things are getting expensive. These used to be, you know, 50 bucks. I just looked on Rock Auto, they want like 130 bucks for a reman unit. And, you know, I may as well just take the one I've got and see if I can save it. Okay, I got it disassembled here. The brushes actually look fine. They're all even, so I guess one was just on that sticking out funny, but these brushes don't look bad. They're actually pretty good life, and they're nice and shiny. There's no major corrosion in here. These posts are little. This one's stripped, so I'm going to take this out of here and replace it with a different one. I got a bunch of old core starters. And then in here, it's free moving, but there is some corrosion and rust happening there. I'm going to clean that up. And inside the case, it's beautiful. And I just sprayed some brake clean in here and cleaned all the old brush material and stuff out of there that was sitting there. Yeah, the rest of it looks pretty good, so I'll probably just reassemble this, clean up the end here. I just, probably is fine, but it just prevent any future problems. Put it in the lathe, and all I'm doing is just using the lathe to spin it true, so I can just take some emery cloth or really, really fine sandpaper and just clean up this end here, and then I'll just clean up this surface and this one. This lathe is it's an old Barnes lathe. I think it's 1880. And normally you see them, they're called a 4.5. I'll just see what it looks like. Try this straight. So all I'm doing, pretty simple. I just wanted to easily spin it so I can sort of polish up the surface. If I can get in there, I don't know if I'll be able to. Here's the drum. This is the driver's side rear. I was hoping to just wire wheel it and clean it up, but it's super pitted here, so I'm just gonna, I've got a brake lathe right there behind all the junk. I'll just move the stuff out of the way and get this guy mounted and turn it on the lathe. Probably just turn it a couple times and just to smooth out that pitting. It's not gonna, the shoes aren't gonna like that much. Okay, got it all set up on the lathe here. It's pretty simple. Just find the right cones to fit. This one's still got, because it's a hub and a drum, it's got the bearings in it. So you just find the right cones to fit inside the races. And otherwise you'd use this one against the flat side of the drum. But yeah, you just turn on the drum. You want to find center. So you want to start, so I'm not standing right in the way. As soon as it touches, like that, you wind it all the way to the end. And you just take it off. I usually do 3 or 4 thou. Set your handle. And it just does the rest. It'll just slowly cut all the way back. Once it comes out to here again, you just go back in. So you can hear how far out it is. Like it's not waving too much on the, there's not a lot of run out or anything on the lathe. So the drum's just a little warped, and I'm not going to try and make it perfect. I just wanted to knock off some of the surface rust and the pitting and the big chunks of stuff in there that are really going to mess with those shoes. So yeah, it's just a very time consuming thing. You kind of just walk away and let it do its thing and come back and reset it every once in a while. Okay, so the back brakes are done, and I put in new brake hose. I've got to run a new line from the front to the rear. It's rusting out. And then I did salvage the hard lines that were there. They're actually pretty good. I ended up just reflaring one end on one of them. Okay, so the rear tires and the front tires are these old, I'm going to use these old, what are they, Cupra, sorry. These are Cooper Discoverer, a weird name, Cooper Discoverer. They're 33s by 12.5, 16-inch rims, and they're sort of those old, I guess you call them wagon wheels or whatever you want to call them. These things are ancient. I mean, well, not 100, they're probably like 25, 30 years old. They came off my buddy's Power Wagon, and he rescued it in a field where who knows how long it had them on it already. But they're just big meats. They look cool on here, I think, and they're sitting in the back. The only reason I'm really using them is I didn't have a set. I've got a lot of 245 85s and 245 75s, and I didn't, because this is a full-time 4x4, I really don't want to mix and match tire sizes and put some strain on the transfer case. So that's why I thought, well, you know what, the only tires I have that are a complete set are these old guys, and they may as well use them up on something. They're not cracked, they're just kind of hard and old, but this will be a cool truck driving around, I think. So I'm going to put the same on the fronts. But right now I'm just doing the pads and calipers. These are just reman calipers, cheapies on Rock Auto. I think they're new tech or new gen or something. And then new brake hoses. I'm gonna make new hard lines. I tried to save these, but they're just pretty crispy. So, and there's actually another hose up there. Well, you can see it in there, up front there, that I didn't order. So I do have one though. I've got a bunch of old hoses that I bought for other projects and never used them. So this one will work fine up front. And yeah, I was thinking of turning these, but they're actually pretty good. There's no big grooves, and I don't actually have a socket big enough for here. It's like 1 3/4. I'd have to go borrow one or something. So driving around to get a socket just to turn the rotors that are actually pretty good, I'm just going to leave them alone. It's just wasted time, I think. And yeah, I'll have to run a new hard line from the front to the rear, and same with the lines for the master cylinder. I'll have to change those. But I do have a new master cylinder as well. I got to bench bleed it and then I'll put it in. But I thought I'd get these lines done first for the front brakes and the rears, and then I can put the master in, and then and then you're not cutting lines and losing all your fluid that you just bled through the master. And I just sort of cleaned up the door panels a bit. Cleaned up the dash. I was just sort of waiting on parts to arrive. The seat kind of sucks. It's got a big blowout here. I don't know if I really want to go searching for another seat, or if I'll just put a seat cover on it or something. Okay, I'm just making brake lines here, and I don't know if you guys have ever used this tool. I used to use the, the old, the flare brake lines. You'd use where you clamp down the piece with all the fitting sizes, and then you gotta wind it down with your hand and change the little, you got the double flare piece, and then you gotta, anyways, I'm explaining it poorly, but the classic brake line flaring tool that everybody would always try and they hated, and I've got a couple of them. I don't love them. They're sitting on the shelf over there, and I thought I would splurge one day, and this is the Eastwood flaring kit. And so, yeah, Eastwood. It comes with the 1/4 inch, the 5/16, and the 3/8 size, and as well as the 3/16, which is what I got in here. So you just set your line loosely. I'll just give a quick, little rundown on this thing. Set your line loosely in the block. Make sure you got the flaring side, because there's also a squared off side on the other side. And I don't tighten this quite down yet. And it's got like this flat bumper here. So you just basically pull the handle, set that. That sets the brake line perfectly. Then I would tighten this. And then you go down on this, this little instruction here. If my camera will focus. I'm using a different camera. The other one, I was using a little GoPro. It just started dying. It was doing all kinds of weird stuff. I'm sure you guys saw the purple in the other videos, and the thing was just driving me crazy. So anyways, right here is OP1, says 3/16. So you turn it number 1. This is the first beginning of the double flare. And you just pull on this handle here. That's the double. Easy as that. No more winding in, no more breaking the little bit in the die because you didn't set it right. So then you go to OP2 for 3/16, which is this one. This will do the flare. Again. That's it. It's done. Then you just undo this part. Pop this little pin that holds that in place. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. I'm going to drop some stuff here, but and I'll show you the end of the flare. It's perfect. It's I don't know what I can focus on here, but there's a little piece of hair on there or something from the floor. Anyways, perfect flare every time. And then you just get a flare nut. Flare nut on there, and that's it. You do the other side. So that tool, I mean, I think I'm in Canada, I paid, I don't know, $350 or something maybe. I think it was at KMS Tools. And what a difference. This thing is awesome. I will never go back. Even I'd rather take the time to take the line out of the vehicle just to reflare the end rather than trying to flare it in the vehicle with that other tool. This thing is just, it like I said, that just took, you guys saw, it took like 10 seconds. So this is, I'm not supported, I'm not sponsored or paid by Eastwood or anything. I'm just showing you guys what, some easier ways to do things or money worth spent. Okay, I got the front tires on. These ones are in better shape than the rears. Yeah, I think they totally changed the look of the truck. Obviously you can't tell, I'm up close. It's hard to step back in the shop here and get the full view, but they definitely changed the look of the truck. They're much wider, they're taller. I think they were the good decision for the truck. And that rad that I had soldered those brackets onto, it was fine and all until the bottom tank split open and I didn't run the engine. So I'm thinking maybe when I soldered the brackets on, the bottom tank got too hot. I'm not sure, but it split. Or maybe there was a split there and it just made it worse. Who knows? But as soon as I poured some coolant in there, it just started to drip out the bottom. So this rad is actually out of a 68 Monaco. You can see there, I just sort of used a piece of C-channel and made it work. The other side's bolted to the actual rad support. But it seems okay. It's not leaking, it's not dripping. We'll see what it does once it has to hold pressure. But I'm running out of options for radiators here. I do have some other ones, but I don't want to use them if I don't have to. And then I ended up having to change the wiring down here. This wiring, it's, throw them both under a connector here, and everything is just, I should have known when I got it from the guy. He made a comment about how he could never kill this thing. I should have known that meant he beat the absolute crap out of it, hoping to kill it, or trying to, and it kept going, because it's just like, yeah, things are worn out that shouldn't be, and it's been a bit of a battle getting this thing together. But looking at it now, I mean, like, changing the look a little bit, bigger tires. I'm just gonna end up, like I was saying before, I was gonna try and find some used 2x6s for this deck here, but I think I'm just gonna get some new ones. They're only like $6 each or something, so I'll just get some new ones, do the deck up here in the next day or two. I've got to address the fuel tank still. It's actually plastic, so that's nice. It's not going to be rotted out, but it's still probably full of junk, so I'll have to deal with that. The carriage bolts are probably going to be what kills me on the price for the deck here. I mean, I don't know. And where else are we at? I gotta do some work on the floor. And by work, I mean literally just, I don't know how well you can see it in here, fix this gaping hole that looks through to the floor, or looks through to the ground. And put that door panel back on. A little bit of gas down the carb. See if this thing does anything. Yeah, that was pretty close. Try a little bit more gas down the carb. I'm just using my old chainsaw gas here. It's got some chainsaw mix in it, but I don't have much else to go with right now. Okay, give it another try. This will be the first time. I haven't cranked on it at all, so this will be the first time, and I'm gonna guess 25 years. Maybe need to play with the timing a bit. Okay, just topped off the bowl, moved the distributor a little bit. There we go. Got a little bit of lifter tick. Hopefully it builds oil pressure. And when I let off, it dies. I wonder if the throttle is just not in enough. I did pull that carb apart and sort of go through it. So hopefully, yeah, it might just need to be, I might just open it further than it needs to be just so I can keep it running for now. Oh yeah, it's not even touching. Maybe that's part of the problem. There, it might be too high, but that's okay. That'll keep it running for now. I sure hope it builds oil pressure soon here. I never did the oil change yet. I wanted to make sure I could get it running. Get all that old crap down to the bottom. A little bit of fuel down the throat here, down the vent tube. Now it might need a little more timing, I don't know. Just running off the bowl right now. I don't have the, I didn't put any fuel in the tank. It's some pretty gross old varnish in there, but got an old muffler under there that's pretty quiet, I guess. Not even that smoky, actually. I was sort of thinking it would smoke me out here, but no, must have run out of fuel. It's just a little 2-barrel, and it's a 360, so it's probably a little thirsty. Put a bit more fuel in my can here, but see if I can keep it running a little longer. Hopefully that oil pump is... It sounds like just one lifter, it's not a bunch of them. So hopefully after some time and just running it, maybe get it yard driving, hopefully that'll quiet down. Okay, I got it running half decent. I did change the fuel pump. It doesn't seem to be pulling fuel though from the tank yet when it's running. I gotta figure this out better. It's awfully close to the fan here when it was running, but it's not charging, so I'll have to look into that. It could be the voltage regulator back there on the firewall. And it had a no spark issue, which turned out to be just the chassis ground to the body was broken off. So once I put that back together, my spark came back, and then my mystery starter relay started working again. So once I figured out those things, seems to be running pretty good. I did drop the tank. I drained out, there's probably 3/4 of a tank of really old gas in there. It wasn't really flammable anymore. So I drained that. Unfortunately, the filler neck here, this hose here is the filler tube. The actual metal, it's a plastic tank, but the actual metal nipple had rotted right off and the hose just fell off, so I sort of had to get creative there. Anyways, I just went down to town and got some lumber, and I'm just gonna start dealing with this deck here. I was gonna try and buy used, but everywhere I looked, the used stuff, you know, it looked like this piece, just rotted away. And they wanted basically the same price as new, so I just went and bought some new, just 2x6s, 10 foots, and there's a 10-foot 2x8 on there that runs down the middle of this thing. So I'm just going to start cutting off all these old carriage bolts. I thought about trying to save them, but they're all bent. They're all basically, they've been kinked over. I'm not going to say it, it's just being cheap. They're like 60 cents each, so I've got a couple bags of hardware there. And this was from a 5th wheel hitch, I think. I'm just going to cut those off. I don't know. If the next guy wants to put a 5th wheel on here, he can. But these are just, they get right, I can see already, they're going to be right in the way of the 2x6s. So I'm just going to cut those welds, get those out of there, and redo this deck. So yeah, I'll start by cutting all these carriage bolts off and cleaning this up, and then show you guys in a bit, and then I'll start with the deck. Okay, so here's the first board on, and they're just shy of 10 feet. They're about 9 and 8 inches, 9 feet 8 inches or something like that. So I got a couple 2x4s on. There was some old 4x4s here, so I got the 2x4s on top of those screwed down just to raise the height. I cut those 5th wheel that angle iron out of there. I was gonna try and work around it, but I realized I'd have to notch the 2x6s, and it was just gonna be a hassle. And yeah, so, and then yeah, I cut all the carriage bolts out. There's an old beer can jammed back there that I can't get out, so that's for the next guy. Maybe it'll be the theme of this truck, I don't know. But yeah, just gonna start going along with the 2x6s. Okay, I got the deck all done here. Carriage bolts are in. Makes the back of this truck look way bigger. It's 10 feet by, I think it's 8 feet wide, maybe 7.5, can't remember, but yeah, it's bright and shiny and new. Sure looks like it's out of place on this thing, but I think it was a good upgrade. And I'm happy now that I went with new instead of buying used and spending probably just as much money, and you know, it'd be full of holes and all kinds of crap. So yeah, and then the spare tire just mounts back up here. It's got a stick and a beer can that I can't get out, but that's fine, they can live there. But it's starting to come together. It's definitely looks a little different than when I first got it. I can't step back far enough in the shop here with the tire machine right behind me, but you sort of get the idea. Looks a little better with those 33s, and that works with the flat deck. Works when I've got those wide tires on the back. I think it looks way better. So yeah, I don't think I'll have trouble selling this. I think this will be, you know, some young guy who wants it for a work truck, or just wants to cruise around with his buddies with a 4x4 and a flat deck and an old 70s Dodge. Yeah, I can see the vision. Okay, so things have progressed, or maybe gone backwards. The seat's out. I've got a gas tank here for behind the seat from a 65 Ford half-ton. So basically, it runs great, but it's not pulling any fuel. You can see my box fuel pumps, so you guys get the picture what's happening here. It will not pull fuel from this plastic fuel tank that is underneath the box, or the bed here. So I pulled the fuel line off the tank, and when you spray compressed air through the sending unit, it goes nowhere. So the sock is majorly plugged. I did blow air through the line from the engine back here, and it's clear. So, but that sock is so plugged that even like, I'd say like 100 psi of air will not blow it out. And unfortunately, I dumped about 40 liters of gas into the tank, fresh gas. So I went to pull the sending unit out, and all the screws are stripped. So then it's like, well, I don't really want to drill them out. It's a plastic tank. There's going to be nothing left to put the screws back into. So then I pulled the seat out, and I did measure back here, and it's kind of neat. It's got the provisions for bolt locations for a in-cab fuel tank. Even though I don't know if that was an option on this. This is a 79, but maybe in like 72 or 73 they did that, because 72 I think was the first year for this cab. So maybe they just kept doing it. I don't know, or maybe that's for something else altogether. But that tank is from a Ford. It will fit. I would just have to drill a hole in the cab. I know that's not ideal, but I also don't have any other trucks parked around here with truck fuel tanks. And then on the side note, this is a hole, right? It's pretty rusty over here, and that side is the same. So I do have to do something with these floor pans. So it didn't hurt to pull that carpet out anyways, and the seat. I've got to do some work there. I may try and salvage the floor mat. Yeah, there's chunks of the carpet. There's a piece of the floor. And here's the floor mat. And it's pretty gross. But, you know, I'll probably pull this insulation off. But really, if I could salvage that somehow, I could at least put it back in. And then, funny enough, behind, when I got the truck, there was this roll of like rubber. It's actually, it's like torch-on roofing. But I might try and cut it up and use it as flooring, because it was, I almost feel like that's what he was going to do with it, the last guy. So that's where we're at here. I still got to cut this cable. It's seized. There's no way I'm getting it through that hoop there. It's been like that for 30 years. This taillight fell down. I got to stick weld this back to the frame. Yeah, bunch of little things to do. And then of course, you know, the rest of the truck still. But it does run pretty good. It idles. When you fill the bowl, it idles, but it's not pulling any fuel up through that fuel filter. You can feel the pump pulsating, but it's just not doing anything. So that's the sending unit, and that's just the fuel line. So it's a separate unit. You don't have to have the combo. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I probably will just end up trying to use this tank if I can't get that sending unit out. If I can get the sending unit out from that guy, then I'll try and clean it up. But yeah, I don't know. I'll probably end up having to drop the tank again and drain my fuel out. I mean, it's fresh, 91 octane, for about 40 liters of it, so I don't really want to leave it in there. It's kind of a waste. And I may dump it into here. Okay, just got it's pretty thick. It's like 14 gauge galvanized. I just had a sheet of it laying in the back, so I just sort of cut it to shape. I get a little metal brake over here. Bent it sort of to fit. I did not weld it in because there's not much to weld it to. So I guess that's maybe a 70s thing? I don't know. I sort of never got into these mid-late 70s Dodges. I mean, I like them, but I'm assuming the sheet metal got crappier or thinner or junkier, because it's, I mean, I did have one for parts back here for a while. I basically just bought it for the bell housing. My cousin's got one. It looks like that's just a common theme, but all under here was a hole. There's still, you know, I didn't do it very pretty, but basically I just wanted, when you climb in the truck, you're not falling through the floor, and the gas pedal has something to sit on, and blah blah blah. So the other side, similar. I just sheet metal screwed it in place. Like I said, to take the time to wire wheel this and clean it up and try and have a nice solid metal to weld to, you need a whole floor pan at that point. So this is my quick fix. Okay, so this tank is the Ford tank I was hoping to use, but I put some rocks in it, shook it around, and it's got some holes. I don't know how well you can see them there. So I'm not going to use this one. I do have another one that I had originally put in my 49 Fargo behind the seat. It had a pinhole at the bottom, which I learned the hard way after filling it full of gas, and it flooded the shop. But I've JB welded it. I had originally welded a hole and then used epoxy, but I don't remember if that held or not, so I used some JB weld. Sorry, the camera's so shaky here, I'm just walking in the back. So, but I do not have a filler neck to go through the cab, so I've got this old 68 Monaco here, and the gas tank is absolutely crushed underneath, not worth saving. So I'm going to cut off this filler neck, which is part of the tank, because it's nice and long, and it'll take a gas cap on the end. So I'm going to cut that off with a Sawzall, and then we'll be back inside making that work in the cab. Okay, this is the other tank This is the one I had put in the Fargo. So yeah, basically if you guys figured it out, I'm going with the tank behind the cab, or behind the seat. The one under the bed, I cannot get those screws out. I got frustrated, so this is the new plan. So this is that filler neck. I just cut off that Monaco, and I had an old piece of exhaust actually. I just sort of slid it in there. It's got a nice little curve on the bottom still. So my thoughts are, basically I've marked a hole there. I'm just gonna have it about that angle. Obviously it won't stick out that far. I'm gonna drill a hole there, and that should be a steep enough angle that the gas doesn't come back up. I made that mistake in the Fargo when I did it. The 49, I did not have the filler tube high enough, so when you turn hard enough to the right, gas comes sloshing out of the filler neck, and obviously the gas cap's on there, but I kind of laugh because I don't have a gas gauge, so I sort of treat that as the gas gauge. If the gas comes out the filler neck, hey, we still got gas. But realistically, it's kind of a pain, and I wish I drilled it higher. But again, I don't want to add another hole in the cab of that nice 49, so I just kind of ignore it. But this one, I will try not to make that mistake. What do you want, pup? What are you doing? Come here. You going in? You going in? Alright. So I got the filler tube in, and I just sort of joined them with a sheet metal screw there. Luckily it's on the top where there's the sort of the baffle inside there. And I used the actual, that grommet is a... Are you leaving? Alright. This grommet is from an A-body gas tank, and it actually worked very well in the cab. It's nice and sealed, it's nice and tight, that ain't going anywhere, so I can just put a cap here, and I think that's the end of that. Man, I did a much better job on this than I ever did on the 49. I wish I did. I wish I used that grommet on the 49. That worked out pretty well. I'll probably redo the 49 now that I've looked at this. I had to sort of notch the cab a little bit, get that to clear. Tanks in, and then I actually have the proper sending unit, believe it or not. I don't think it works, but I don't have a float on it either. I don't really care. But I'll grab a float if I find one, and it'd be nice if I had a working fuel gauge. I don't think that'll happen, but anyways, I just got to get the rubber piece, put it in there, and then got an old lock ring here. And then I just have to plumb it, so I'll just have to run into town, get some 5/16 metal fuel line, and I'll just run it over there, down through a hole in the floor. Don't worry, there's plenty of holes, and up to the fuel pump. And hopefully then we've got a successful fuel system, because right now it's just a pain. It's not doing anything you want it to. Plumbed in. I don't love the little loop. But the fuel pump's on the passenger side on this thing, and the sending unit points to the driver's side. I know other vehicles, sometimes the fuel line goes sort of across like the K-member. Anyways, I didn't want to do any of that. I'm just sort of roughing it in here. So I had to chunk a 3/8 fuel line. Would have preferred 5/16 just because the hose I have is all 5/16, but trying to use up what I got. And it goes under the cab, and then I ran a new piece up to the engine, and that's up to the fuel pump. So I'm just going to go and put the floor mat back in. Yeah, I just fired it up, and it's been running way longer than before. So the fuel pump's finally pumping fuel. I dumped about probably 40 liters in here. It was everything I put in the other tank, aside from what I just spilled all over the floor. I did epoxy the bottom, but that's dry and that's holding, so it wasn't leaking before. It was kind of just like a very mild weep, so I think it's okay now. We'll see how long that holds. Okay, interior's back together. That tank's behind the seat there. The seat is just as bad as I remember, but I got the flooring back in. The gas pedal's mounted better now. There's no big gaping hole over here. It's nice. It's everything's, you climb in and it's falling through the floor. That's nice. It's a little fumey in here. I'm hoping it's just from the cap here, because I got the door open and it's just venting. I don't have a vented cap right now. It's just sitting on there loose, but I'm hoping it's that. The tank doesn't have any leaks, and every little, where the pipe goes in, I sealed that up and everything, the filler neck. So I don't know why it would be fumey, but I mean, my Ford pickup, when it's got a full tank, it's fumey inside the cab. It's just the way it is. So maybe that's just one of those things. But I just drained the oil, do an oil change, and man, I had a hell of a time getting this filter off. It's a Fram, but you look at the filter. It's not rusting around the threads, and the gasket was pretty, it's not all rusty, but I had to punch. You can see here, I just mangled this thing trying to get it out. I had to punch a bunch of holes in it with a screwdriver and twist on it. My little filter wrench was bending. It's like, guys, when you put these filters on, you don't have to crank them down. Just tight enough with your fingers, and then one little, just snug it up. You don't have to crank on them. So that was a nightmare, and unfortunately it's right between the frame. It's a small block Dodge, so it's between down there between the block and the frame. Well, then the manifold's there, and then right below it is the drive shaft, front drive shaft. So it's not the easiest thing to get out. And I couldn't find a stock air filter up there upstairs in my parts, but I had this one, just a little chrome one, and it fits that 2-barrel Holley. I put the reservoir back on. I did check when it was running too, and I do have 14 volts, so that's awesome. But I got a weak brake pedal, so when the truck's not running, it's got a firm pedal, and then when it's running, it's like almost to the floor. So I'm assuming that booster's bad. That's too bad. I don't know that I have another one like that. I've got some old cores. Unfortunately, it sucks. You put a core in and hope it works, and it doesn't, and then you got to change it again. But and then this door, could never get it to open, so I freed that up. I just lubed the latch a bunch. I got the door panel back on. I still got to clean it. Yeah, and everything's back together over here. I found another shift knob for the 4x4. This old lever lock for the AFCO brake lock, it's not hooked up to anything, but I couldn't get the bolts out of the dash, so it's kind of just goes along for the ride. Yeah, what else did I do? Oh, I cut that cable off the back. I still got to weld that brake light back in place, but I cut that cable off that was there. And once the brake light's up in place, that'll look a little better. I got to bolt, those straps are hanging there, the gas tank, I took it out, so I got to put those straps back up. I'll just leave them in place, and if the guy, whoever gets the truck, if they want the plastic gas tank, then hey, it's all yours. Have fun. But yeah, I'm just going to put the filter back, new filter on. I've just got this, it's just a Bosch filter. That's all they had. They didn't have a Wix or anything in stock, so I just got this, got a Bosch filter. I'm telling myself that it's better than, well, made in Mexico. Camera won't focus. Hopefully it's better than the Fram. And that air filter, I kind of had to laugh. It was just one that someone gave me. I guess they couldn't sell it at the swap meet. 10-inch air cleaner. But when you're reading the back, where does it say it here? Oh, here. Match the Proform air cleaner with our brilliant Corm. Corm. Not Chrome, but Corm. So, that's a good brand. That's a good air cleaner. That's like the knockoff Chinese Proform, I guess. I thought they were Chinese, so maybe the knockoff, the Chinese knockoff of the Chinese Proform. I don't know. But it's good just to use up some of that stuff. yeah, so I'll finish up the oil change and then I'm going to fire it back up. I don't know if the clutch broke free yet. I did try bumping the starter in gear just to see if that will help. But it's just been a bit of a struggle, this clutch. I actually had it freed up for a moment and then it seemed to grab again like it's not happy. So I think maybe the splines are a bit rusty, or someone didn't put grease on the splines. You know, it comes with that little pack of grease. They probably ignored that. So once the clutch is good, I'd like to let it idle for, you know, back it out of the shop and make sure the brakes work and let it idle for a while, and probably dump some mystery oil in the gas tank there, or down in the oil, just to help clean up those valves a bit. And yeah, and then we'll see what it does. Okay, well, I sort of skipped filming a little bit there, but I ended up welding the clutch rod from the Z-bar to the clutch fork. I ended up welding it longer. I also took all the bolts out of the pressure plate and just let the pressure plate ride freely, you know, so I could move it back. And then I tried to move the clutch disc back and forth. There's a lot of surface rust in there. And unfortunately the fingers seem to be, it's like I think somebody pushed the clutch pedal in and then it didn't release for some reason, and then it just sat like that for 20 years because those fingers seem to be, they favor being pushed in now, which is too bad. I really don't want to get in there and change the clutch. You know, cast iron transmission plus a transfer case and all the, I've been there, done that. I don't really want to get into it. But here's how it is now. Got the bigger tires on there. This driver's side sticks out a little bit. One of them has a different offset than the other three. The other three are the same, and I think I feel like this front right tire has the different offset, so maybe I should have put that on the driver's side. I don't think it would have made a difference. I think it would have stuck out one side or the other. But yeah, this is it. You know, front bumper's a little kinked, but I think overall, I think it actually looks pretty cool now. But the clutch, I mean, the clutch works, but it's weird. You push on it, it definitely slips. And then, but I'm hoping all that rust in there will just come out. But basically, when you push on the pedal, you know, it engages, like it releases, sorry. And then as you let it up, it doesn't engage, like it sort of catches, because I think that's where the fingers were stuck. And then as you release it, you kind of got to pop it with your foot a little bit, and then it grabs. So I'm hoping that will, with me using it, driving it around, I'm going to put insurance on it in a little bit here, and I'm hoping that sort of works itself out. It kind of sucks right now. The brakes work fine. The transmission goes into gear now without grinding. That's awesome. That's a huge plus. It's just that it's almost like engaging now. It's having trouble rather than releasing. So anyways, hopefully that works out a bit. Door panel's cleaned up pretty nice. I gotta change this winder. The thing's gone. The seat is, yeah, I don't know. It's a neat seat pattern though. Looks like maybe the original. Sort of that. Looks like it's supposed to be like fake woven something. Some old stickers from the dude before me. And I still haven't figured out the headlights. They got that relay that sort of clicks on and off. It's not doing anything. I also don't have a temp gauge working yet, or oil pressure. So somebody's already cut a hole here. I might just get some cheap gauges and sort of make a little thing and put them in there, just so we know. I gotta get a vented cap still. It's just sitting here. But yeah, and the spare tire, I mean, that's, no one would ever in their right mind use that, I don't think. Well, maybe, you know, I probably would, but I don't know if anyone else would. It's a 8 3/4 by 16.5, so sort of just for looks. These rails were way taller. I chopped them off a bit so I could actually just get it out of the shop, and they kind of looked goofy. Brand new deck. I've already broken it in by spilling my coffee all over the place this morning. And I still got to weld this other brake light on. It's just sitting here right now. I just got to tack it back up into place. And then I don't know if the wipers work. I'll have to, still a few things to do, but I really just wanted to get it outside. This thing's been taking up good shop space for a while here. Hopefully, I don't know if the hood will open again. I shut it and I maybe wasn't thinking. I might have to mess around with that a little bit. See if I can get the hood to open again. Oh, maybe it is open. Oh, maybe I just can't get it to latch actually. Yeah, I just couldn't get it to latch, I guess. Fuel pump's pumping, everything's hanging on. I think I need to change the accelerator pump in the carb. I know the lid's backwards. I flipped the lid. It's a low profile, but it actually still hits everything underneath. So I ended up flipping the base, but then the rod's too short and I didn't want to go buy a chunk of rod, so I just flipped the lid. Yeah, but everything else is working pretty good. I might want to adjust the rear brakes a little bit. I'm hoping to see if I got a little coolant leak here at the thermostat. Yeah, you know, old junk. But it seems to fire up pretty good every time. Yeah, fires right up, no problem. So maybe the accelerator pump's okay. That base was sort of getting in the way. That might have something to do with it, but yeah, when you clutch in, goes into gear fine, no grinding, but you can hear it sort of. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's like slipping on the flywheel now because it's probably so rusty. But it basically, the truck won't move until, see, the clutch stuck and then it lets go. So it just, what a pain. So it jumps there. So you kind of gotta feather the clutch. Go back here. And then once it's done, once you feather it, it's fine. It drives, but what a pain. So I'm gonna have to play with that. I'm hoping once I get it on the road and I start using it, it'll just be less sensitive and less touchy. What a stupid thing. So I know some of you are crying out, just change the clutch, but I really don't want to go there. I've done enough clutches in my life to, especially with a transfer case, to know how much screaming's involved. Especially under there, everything, it was pretty crusty, so. Yeah, once I get it out on the road, I'll get a clip of that, and I think it turned out looking pretty cool. Good save. Okay, I got a couple things done. Got this tail light welded back onto the frame. Everything's working there. I was having a problem with the headlights, man. I just spent a couple hours tracing wiring and trying to figure out what's going on. And over here, this is new to me. I mean, this thing's old, but I'm used to 50s, 60s stuff. This little box here is actually I could hear something clicking, and I thought it was that when I'd pulled a headlight switch, but it wasn't. It was actually this guy, which is just a little contactor goes here. Just a little set of points, really, and it has a little coil, and it pulls the points together, and it was supposed to turn on the headlights, I think, but this was failing. This guy is actually just a fuse, I think. It says 15 amps on it. It's just got two posts. One's hot, but when you pull the headlight switch, no, sorry, this isn't involved. Anyways, I was getting confused. I ended up putting a little jumper in where this guy was. Anyways, long story short, I traced it back through the high beam switch, and I decided to pull the headlight switch back out, and a couple of the wires were not on the terminals in the headlight switch. So it was very simple, but I still spent 2 hours tracing wiring. And I just changed that the little resistor there for the You guys know the one, this guy here, is a resistor for your heater. So when you put the heater on low speed, on the right side there, you get hot through one side, or the high speed, it gets hot through the other, and then the resistor just tells the fan how, you know, gives it how much power or whatever. So you got your low and your high speed. I just explained that horribly, but hopefully you understood. So I changed the resistor because this one was in there, and there's supposed to be 2 prongs on the one side right here. One was broken off, and they're extremely rusty, and they were not making good connections, so I just changed that out. And then I went and banged on the blower motor on the other side with a hammer, and it freed it up, and it's working. So now we got headlights and also a blower motor. Or I'll pull the switch. There we go. Got headlights. I got one marker light down there. And I got tail lights. That's better than before. And there's the tail lights. So yeah, so headlight switch is figured out. Blower motor works. And I just got to figure out the wipers. I got no wiper motor either. Once I get that, that's pretty much all I'm going to do in here for electrical. I think I'm going to take a torch today and torch the up here on this clutch pedal where it rides on that shaft. I think it's rusted to the shaft, so that's that stiff spot I'm getting. So I'm going to take a torch. Sometimes those bushings, it's got those plastic bushings in there. Sometimes they get a little crusty and stiff, and I know on my 49 I used a pedal setup from a 66, and I ended up just taking those bushings out because they would just bind up, and all it does, it just kind of rides a little looser on the shaft there. But I think that's what I'm gonna do, just to free that up, because I think that's what's happening. I don't think the clutch itself is being sticky or weird. I think it's actually just the pedal is like on the shaft there is stuck, because you can physically pull it back and it feels like it's just above you on that shaft. Okay, I was having trouble with the wiper motor. It wouldn't work. This is the one that came out of it. Somebody ran it around. Anyways, they had this harness plugged in, but they did not have the resistor, and the resistor is what causes the motor to slow down. So you'd normally be like high speed, and then the resistor will give you low speed. It cuts the voltage. So yeah, but this is totally stuck. This won't spin at all. The motor's just completely seized. So I went out to my good buddy Joe's, and he's got a bunch of these trucks in a field, and I managed to grab another wiper motor, which is a lot nicer. And I just got the dash pulled apart here because I was trying to get to the switch, but now I've got a working wiper motor. The bushing was broken because in the 70s they switched to those sort of plastic bushings that holds the wiper linkage, but I just went back to the metal clip style where it's like a round washer with a little clip, and they still go right back on. So I did that. So now we got a wiper motor. Okay, so a little bit's happened since last filmed anything. As you guys probably noticed, I was having issues with the cameras. That last video with the satellite, man, that just almost a joke. I almost should just delete that and do it again. That's a really old Canon camera I was using, and then that's what I'd started out using, and it's just super old, so the quality is just blurry. And then I bought a GoPro, and an older model, kind of cheap, and it worked great for a while, and then it started doing that weird purple haze thing, and then now it'll turn on and shut off randomly. It freezes all the time. So this camera I just bought, it's a cheapy little Amazon thing. It was really cheap. So hopefully it holds out. We'll see. but I, you know, bought it new, so yeah, so a cheapy little Amazon thing. It was like 69 bucks on sale. Hopefully it will last and not do anything weird. And I apologize to you guys. Thanks for sticking through the crappy quality and supporting the channel. So anyways, the Dodge here, I did do a bunch of work to it. I actually did take it out for the first test drive. I drove it into town yesterday. I tried to record all that stuff, but the camera just kept crapping out. So, but an update for you guys. So it fires up great. I did fix the choke. It's actually got a working heat riser choke. I set that all up. That 2-barrel carb. So the one that was on it was frozen, completely rusted. The throttle blades were bent. There was no way it was ever going to work. Even if I put a rebuild kit in it and freed it up, it was just junk. So the carb that's on it, I fixed the hood release. That actually works. That's pretty cool. But the carb that was on it, or that's on it now, is a Holley single barrel. Sorry, not a single barrel, 2-barrel, and it's the bigger base, not the little tiny guy. And it works great. It works great. It did do some sputtering here and there, and it was like the needle was sticking in the seat. So I changed that, and that made it a bit better. And then it would, idle great driving around town, no problems. And then get down to a stoplight, and all of a sudden it's just sputtering and barely running, and having to kick the throttle a bunch, trying to keep it going. And I don't know if it was having a bit of a vapor lock issue or something, but I cracked the fuel line and a little bit of air seemed to come out. So that was weird. But yeah, it seems to be running okay now. The ignition's all good. This rad is holding up really well. There's a little bit of coolant on the top there. I don't know if you can see it, but that was just yesterday. It had a bit of an airlock, but once I sorted that out, it runs about 190 and it stays there. And actually, I just put the aftermarket temp and fuel gauges or oil pressure in just to see where it's at. Driving around with no temp gauge, it's a little daunting, and it's pretty hot out sometimes. And but I was pleasantly surprised with the oil pressure. It's up around, it's like 50 pounds, 50 psi of oil pressure when it's cold. And after running for about an hour, it was up at 40. So I think I was expecting it. It's a mystery engine. It's sat for years. I was expecting it to be somewhere around, I don't know, 5 pounds at idle. So, fuel tank is in. I had to redo the filler neck. That was a bit wonky. Get that seat back. Yeah, I had to take this grommet out in order to get this neck to go at the right angle to put a grommet in the tank. So, whatever, not the end of the world. The clutch is actually working pretty good. The clutch has freed itself up. It was rusted to the flywheel and to the pressure plate. I did free it up enough to move it around, but it would still make this horrendous sound when it was trying to grab. I think that was all that surface rust that was in there. But driving it around, using it, it seems to be working good. I got the headlights working. All the turn signals work. It's charging. That's nice. I never even touched the alternator or any of the charging system. And it's actually charging at, it's like 14.5. So that is perfect. So that was a nice thing I didn't have to do. I did change this wiper motor. The other one was completely seized. So now we've got working wipers. The brakes work great. The pedal doesn't go too far down. It does. Those tires, like I said, they're ancient, right? So but I mean, they don't have any flat spots. I'm actually quite surprised how well they're running down the road. They haven't done anything weird. They haven't bulged out the sides. You know, you get up close, there's some weather checking and stuff in between the treads, but they're not that bad. And this thing sure gets a lot of looks going down the road. A lot of thumbs up. I mean, I've only driven it 2 days now, but just bombing around town and stuff, it sure gets a lot of attention. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the truck. I'll do a quick little clip here later today or the next day, just driving it around and show you guys what it does. I haven't taken it in the bush or anything like that. I don't really have time, but I'm probably going to list it for sale pretty soon here just to move it along. My yard's getting a little busy. But yeah, there's the 79 Dodge Power Wagon W200 with a 75 Dodge nose. It's got fenders, grill, bird bath hood. Okay, just got some packages to mail, some errands to run. Thought I'd take the new daily driver, which in all reality is just me hoping to sell it soon. It fires up quick. I put those temp gauge and oil pressure in. Seems to be holding about 190. And I got here at idle about 45 pounds of oil pressure, so that's good enough for me. It's much better. I assumed it'd be like around 10. Shut my gate. That there. Window's a little foggy. Okay, we'll see how it does here. Hopefully it doesn't bog out or stall. It was giving me a little bit of grief the other day. I think it's the carb, but it's funny that crack in the window is fogged around the crack, and then the window is fogged all around the edges. Once again, I'm just holding it while I'm shifting, so it's a little bit shaky, but I do have that little thing you put on the dash, but I find you can't really hear the audio as well. Maybe that's a good thing, you don't have to listen to me anymore, but yeah, speedometer works. It's in kilometers per hour because it's a 79, and here in Canada I think they switched over in about 77. Clutch works pretty good. It's a little high on the pedal. I did have to lengthen the rod. Somebody put a diaphragm clutch in it, and it would have had a 3-finger, I think, the old Borgen back plate. So it all in all, I think the clutch fork was actually sitting a little further down than it is used to. Oh, the bumpiness. Yeah, sorry for the shaky camera. That's due to the due to these front tires, and this thing's full-time 4x. So right now we're in 4 high, and this shifter here, that little guy, that's to go to 4 low, and that's it. You don't have two-wheel drive, so it definitely drives like an old 4x. It's a little wandery. I think it's due to those wide front tires. Yeah, I think it's not bad actually. You know, for an old abandoned Dodge that I think it sat about 25 years, the guy said, maybe 30. That's why it's so dangerous. People come down here doing like 90, and then you got a guy stopped on the highway trying to turn left into the bottle depot. I don't know why they never put a turning lane there, but you just get, there's people just cutting in front of you trying to move over. I'm driving one-handed with a camera, and you know, good times. Seems better. I did open the carb up again, probably for like the 4th time. I just find to keep cleaning crap out of it, even though I got a good fuel filter, and the tank is, I think the tank I put behind the seats maybe a little rusty. Who knows? But it is running a lot smoother. Whoop, missed the gear. Thing gets a lot of attention though, man. A lot of people reaching out, giving me thumbs up. I guess you don't see a lot of 3/4 ton mid-70s Dodge 4x4s around. Brakes work good. It's got those front discs, and the booster I thought maybe was shot, but I think it's half shot. It's working, but the pedal seems to travel a bit further than I would like. This might get hairy here, filming going through this. I don't know why I took this route. Probably the busiest spot in town for our little town here. Oh, just a move. This pedal and this clutch, man, this gas pedal and this clutch are not a good combination, especially driving one-handed. It's the gas pedal is on a huge angle for some reason. I don't know why. And then the clutch pedal's got that stupid sticky part. So trying to, I just about stalled it in that super busy intersection back there, but you get these idiots trying to turn around here. I'm gonna park right front center here in the 15-minute parking. got that key release. Yeah, I mean, I'm just putting around town, but the temperature stayed. About 190. Okay, pulled over because something's on fire. Oh yeah, we got smoke. I got a good campfire. Oh, right under my gas tank too. Fuck, we got a good little fire going here. Jesus. Get out of there. That's what happens when you don't clean the pine needles. Holy crap. I'm laughing because I put that gas tank in the cab. That's a good one. It's still burning. That's the muffler right below it, so I guess it lit all those pine needles on fire as I was driving up the hill, and they've just been piled up. Wow, I didn't expect that. All kinds of good stuff happening here. Oh, man. Okay. I was driving along, minding my own business, and I could smell smoke, like wood smoke. I'm thinking, where's that coming from? It's full on fire here. Well, that was exciting, I guess. Look underneath and I just see flames. Hopefully that's the end of it. I don't know. I'll have to pull forwards and stomp out these little embers so nobody freaks out. I mean, they did just lift the fire ban, but it is still mid-September. I don't want to be that guy. Well, that's not what I expected to happen when I thought something might go wrong. Anyways, guys, I'll end it here. Thanks for watching. I will say I think the 360 is a little tired. And it does this weird thing where it runs great, and then it stumbles, and then it runs great, and then it stumbles, and that carb is just pissed off and tired, I think. Who knows, the carb came off that kid's 69 Polara. Who knows what it ran like when it was on his truck, or his car. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Keep subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next one.